What's up guys, MikeCoco back here, bringing you guys the video on the Mythic Descent portion of the Grand Update. Now that I've had a little bit of time to play around in exploration, I kind of understand it a bit more. So, first off, to get a hero to Mythic, you need to go to Mythic Descent and just go to this tab and select whatever hero you want. Various heroes have various costs. The ones from lower seasons tend to have lower materials required. For example, I have an S2. Like Arena only needs 2,600 and 3.1k leg essence, while someone like S6 or S7 like Ritterin needs much more at 3.1k Dragonheart and 3.6k leg essence. So um, even though the skills are relatively the same, you can find the same skills on an S7 hero, similarly in an S1 or S2 hero. It might be a good idea to focus on the S2 heroes if you have a low amount of Dragon Hearts or if it's taking you a lot of time to farm them. So this is the process of getting a hero to Mythic. Any legendary hero can become a Mythic hero now, and the purpose of getting a hero to Mythic is for the Mythic skills, which are very important. So with the new Mythic skills, there are various skills. Some heroes have this skill, which increases the attack for heroes that use the same weapon as the current hero. So, for example, Evie has a skill that increases the attack of magic or staff based magic heroes. Um, Other heroes like Neff or well, not Neff, but other heroes such as I think Pram increases the damage for ranged heroes. Okay, no, never mind. I know one of the so basically in a sense melee heroes will have mythic skills that increases attack for melee heroes, and some ranged heroes will also have mythic skills that increase range attack. I don't remember which one is which, but you can go here and look for them. Maybe Pendragon, yeah, so Sarah has that skill. Others have like increased boost for like gold. This is found in some S3 heroes like Drake and Nikki. These are two common heroes that I think people used before. Um, Other heroes, especially in S5, we have the immunity mythic skill found in Amos and Anak, and the increased damage to bosses found in Lacita and, as you saw before, Pram. Some other heroes like cannons actually specifically have increased minimum damage because cannons have very poor damage range, so this mythic skill increases that. There's also reduced damage received from enemies here, and certain ones like War God Tehu and I think Yukio have a skill where it decreases damage received, and they become immune to crits and it boosts PvP damage, which makes them very good for PvP use. And another interesting one is actually EK. Her skill increases the weapon activation chance for sword heroes, so I'm assuming there's also a hero with mythic skills that can increase the activation chance for ranged and magic heroes. Similarly, now this EK skill might actually be useful for people like Michael or Arthur, so just keep note of that. So with that said, mythic skills are very useful. Now we have to talk about how we can actually get mythic skills. And to get mythic skills, you need to get these dragon hearts that you can obtain by going to explore right here. Now the way it works is the patch note says it's kind of like bounty hunt, but it really isn't because you're fighting separate bosses 10 times. You can actually scroll this. The first time I looked at this, I thought 1-5 was the end, and then I scrolled left and there was more. They should have like an arrow here. There's no arrow to indicate it's done, but basically each fight is one boss. So you can think of it more like Chaos Abyss, where it's just one boss. There are no rounds before the boss, it's just the boss itself. So you clear each boss and you get these dragon hearts. So if I clear 1-1, I get 4. Once I clear 1-2, I have 8. So this is cumulative. You get 4 from this and 4 for this. That's why it says 8. You don't get 8 from just clearing this battle alone. Similarly, the same applies for 2-2. It means that once I've completed all of Ruin Area 1 and 2-1 and 2-2, I will have 48 Dragon Hearts once I click End. And you do need to complete the earlier Ruins area before you can move on to the next one. And as you can see here, there are these weekly chests that you can get rewards. Every time you finish 2 of these boss battles, you can access one of these chests. The rewards aren't that great at the lower levels, but at the higher levels, they're pretty decent at the end, because you get some decent stuff. You get a few tickets and you get extra dragon heart. So it's always nice if you can get to the end. Now, the way exploration works is that it's very much auto based, which means that you can't manually control your heroes. So another problem with this is that in exploration, when you're fighting, if your hero dies and you complete the battle, um, you can no longer use that hero in any next boss battles. So for instance, if I'm fighting, let's say 1-2, or actually can't fight this one. Let's say I'm fighting 1-2, um, and suppose I'm using my current team of, let's say, what is it? Let's say I'm using my current team, this team, and let's say Ritterin dies on 2 or 1-2, then I can no longer use him in 1-3 all the way until I end the exploration. Once I end the exploration, I can reuse Ritterin in exploration, but I can no longer use him before I click the end exploration button. So keep note of that, because this means if you somehow run out of your good heroes, or if you feel like you should have beat that but your hero shouldn't have died, you can always end and retreat. I'm not sure if it's a glitch right now, but my guildmate Rome's found this, is that even if your heroes die, if you retreat the battle and you don't end up killing the boss, you can reuse your heroes again. I'm not sure if this is a glitch right now or if it's a bug, because according to the patch notes it says that if your heroes die, you can no longer use them, but it doesn't indicate whether if they die and you complete it, you can reuse them, or if they just die, as soon as you die, you can no longer reuse them. So it may be a glitch right now. So do keep in mind of that. And there's also two options here. Here's the retry. This I would pretty much ignore if you're a free player, because you can't get this, I haven't started it, but you can't retry. Basically means you can redo all of the Dragonheart exploration again, but you have to use soul gems to do this, so don't bother with this one. The button you want to focus on is this one, continuous battle. So the way continuous battle works is that it's kind of like auto tower, or I guess in this case it would be more similar to auto chaos abyss, because you fight each boss one by one. And so you can set it to auto, and I would recommend doing this for Ruins Area 1 or 2, depending on how strong you are. If you're strong enough to clear 1 on manual without taking any significant damage, or without any heroes basically hitting half health, then I would use continuous battle for that area. But for any areas where you can take significant damage, or if you lose heroes, I would not recommend using continuous battle, because you can use that trick that I just mentioned, where you can retreat and you can still use your heroes again. And also because if you look at this blue text here, whenever your heroes are injured, they'll be placed automatically according to their power. So because exploration is in auto mode, they'll just place your heroes randomly and in random power. So you might not even get the heroes you want to use in that battle, because auto just takes over. So I would not recommend this if you take more than half damage to your HP bar, because there's a potential you might die, and the next battle the AI just might give you some random heroes to use. So I would not recommend doing that, and I would always recommend clicking this button. Battle ends when hero is injured. This is like a necessity, because if you continue and you end up using all your good heroes on some random round, then it's kind of a waste, because you can no longer reuse them, especially for free players, because they can't retry Dragonheart exploration. So there's that. Now you can only end exploration once. I can't stress this enough. When I was doing this, I thought you could clear area 1 and then end and then go to area 2. You can't do that. You can only do exploration once if you're a free player. You can do it more than once if you're paying. I think you can retry using VIP. I'm not sure about that. But you can actually complete, let's say, Ruin Area 1, close this, go back to, farm some equipment, or not equip, but you can't really equip it if they're already in battle. But you can go do something else and then come back and then continue exploration and finish off Ruins Area 2, 3, and 4. So because of the way it works, I would recommend actually doing it as the last thing to do in Legion at each day, because you might be farming for some good equipment or rune stones to reinforce, and you might just need that extra buff or boost in power or HP or damage or defense to get past the ruins area. So that's why I recommend doing it at the end. Now I'm just gonna go in and start doing this because I have to talk a little bit about formations, because this mode is completely automatic. Um, one of the formations I've started to use is this formation. So because you can only bring in 5 heroes, and usually there's gonna be like some sort of, oh, is that thing sticking in there? That's a little bit annoying. Okay, so you can only bring in 5 heroes, and often you're starved for Fury if you don't bring in a Fury Thief. And in this mode, I actually don't recommend bringing in any multi-target Fury Thieves, because as you can see, once the mobs are done, you no longer have multiple targets, you only have a single boss. And against single targets, multi-target Fury Thieves actually do not bring back any Fury, they actually consume more Fury. So if you started off with 250 Fury, and you used a multi-target Fury Thief like Nikki, Claire, Balor, can't think of any others right now, Hyrule, they would actually use up 200, so you have 50 left, and they would only retrieve back maybe 100. So now you're left with 150 Fury, so you're 100 Fury down. And so in this case, I would actually avoid using multi-target Fury Thieves. And as you saw before, you don't have to bring your main into the battle, which is very nice because sometimes the main takes up a lot of Fury. And so because of this, I highly recommend bringing in Fury Thieves, or else you'll often be starved for Fury. Now, right now, I don't have a Fury Thief. I know I'm not following my own guideline, but ideally I would want Claire and Lacita. And the reason is, once I get Claire, or once I get Pram out, I can put in Claire, and then I'll have my Fury Thief. So even though she's 200, if I set her initiative correctly, she won't use her skill every turn, and so by the end, once my heroes are done auto-attacking, I should be able to retrieve a little bit more Fury, so that any other heroes can use that. And speaking of initiative, I did forget to mention this. Because this is a fully auto mode, you need to set up your formation correctly. A lot of the monsters have pushback, so I highly recommend sticking with a 2-2 setup like this. That way none of the heroes can be pushed back, especially if you use any heroes that have row effects like shield, or like shield in Lucas's shield, and Ridderin as in his defense buff. That way they don't get pushed back. And I think I was going to talk about something else. Yeah, and because you only have 5 heroes, I think this 2x2 square is a must. If you do anything like this, I guess it would work, but it may work. You can try to see if it draws enough aggro so that it won't target these guys here. But you know, I think this works well for me. It may work, it may not work for you, but I definitely do recommend a 2x2 at least, so that none of the heroes get pushed back. And another thing you have to note is that you can't control any of the bosses. So I'll just start this battle first. They actually have the immunity to stun and bewitch and silence, such as Chaos. No, actually Chaos Abyss is not immune. They have this buff similar to Mythic Raid, so you can't stun, you can't silence, and you can't bewitch, which means any of the following heroes are basically useless. Anak is useless. Dimitra becomes useless. Who else has any bewitching? Fursona, I think, is kind of useless. Isabella becomes useless even with costume because she's a 300 Fury user, so it's very costly. So a lot of those heroes don't matter anymore. Lacita is still good because she has that attack buff, which is always nice. And the reason why I'm using this setup right now and not using a more defensive based setup is because as the turns go on in Mythic, or not Mythic, in Exploration, the boss starts hitting harder and harder. So ideally you don't want to use a stalling tactic where you just keep applying attack debuffs and just stall it out. You can't do that because it seems as if the boss is hitting harder as the turns go on, so you want to clear as fast as possible. That's why I'm using Pram, because the crit plus attack buff allows Lacita to hit harder than just the just the attack buff itself, which means that I should be able to clear it faster. And now back to a little bit more strategy. The reason why I'm using Arena is because Fury is hard to come by. You can see here I'm already starved for Fury, I'm only at 300, and having Husky in your team is definitely worth it. If not, Legendary Khalid is also very good because his skill has been buffed, so it only requires 100 Fury, and he can potentially draw back I think 600 if you time it right, if you set the initiative right. If you set him to the end, he can usually take out 600 Fury or steal 600. Now, that's the reason why I'm using Arena, is because Arena can heal, and often the boss doesn't target the summon that Arena draws, because your other heroes do much more damage, so it'll draw aggro on those heroes rather than your healer. And this means that you get free heals, 0 Fury. That's why I'm not using Jiri right now, is because Jiri costs 200 Fury every time you want to use her skill. And with the lack of Fury here, it's very difficult to do that. So ideally, the team you want would be one damage dealer. Doesn't matter what it is, but preferably someone who deals damage and steals Fury. So I think Gabriel works very well for this. I may potentially trade off Lacita for Claire, simply because Claire can sometimes match Lacita's damage if it weren't for crits, because she's a magic based, and she can steal Fury as well. So I may switch off to Claire. You need a debuffer. A lot of the mobs in area 3 have Fury. What's it called? The one where it increases the Fury cost, so it's the opposite of Alina's effect. And this makes it very difficult to apply any skills whatsoever, because you'll just be auto-attacking, because every skill that's regularly 200 Fury becomes 400, so you need even more Fury to activate your skill. So having a Dispeller, Cleanser, whatever you want to call it, is very useful. Remy becomes very powerful because she's only 200 Fury in this case, especially with her costume. It's a 2-turn immunity, and I don't believe, out of the bosses I've played so far, I don't think many of them have removed this remove buff effect. So you can't remove the 2-turn immunity. So again, Remy becomes very powerful in this case. So a cleanser is a must, a damage dealer is a must, a healer is a must. You can't go on without a healer unless you have very high active red rings, and that may work if you have a guaranteed dispeller or cleanser. Right now I'm using the setup I mentioned in the video, which is the Purifying plus Veiled Enmity. Now you do need level 15 active for it to be 100% proc, so it costs a little bit more to do that, but even at level 10-10, it's definitely more than 50% chance of activating. So I would stick with Ella. If not, actually, instead of Ella, I may start using Amos. I'll still give him the Veiled Enmity and Purifying setup, but because Amos' own skill is Cleanse, that means that if any of my heroes are in immediate need of cleanse, like if Lacita is stunned, I will definitely not risk using just a normal attack and hoping the cleanse activates. I would definitely use 300 Fury and get her unstunned. Or if it's like a crit, I would definitely not risk it. But for simple things like attack debuffs or healing debuffs, I wouldn't spend 300 Fury on that, and so I would just stick with hoping the inscription procs from the Veiled Enmity and Purifying setup. So what have we gone up to? So we need attacker, damage dealer, cleanser. We need a Fury Thief. See if we can find a Fury Thief in any of those 3 modes, and preferably an attack debuffer. Often the attack debuffer won't be able to use your skill if you're low on Fury, because I don't think Ritter has used a skill at all. So that may not always work as well if you don't have enough Fury, but it definitely helps. If you don't want to use a defense debuffer, you can use a shielder like Lucas. I've actually had tremendous success using Lucas as a shielder, but because his shield negates all damage, you can't gain Fury very easily, so you definitely need that Fury Thief if you want to use a shielder. Don't expect to use a shielder and expect to get away with being able to use skills, because that probably won't happen. And so yeah, that's pretty much the setup I would recommend. Healer, Fury Thief, Cleanse, Damage Dealer, and some sort of reducing damage in the form of attack debuff or shield. A lot of the times the boss only targets like the first row or second row depending on how much damage they do, and so a shield can actually be very beneficial if they shield the first row, because the boss will just hit the first row and nothing will happen. None of your heroes will die. So there's that. And like I said before, you want to clear this as fast as possible, because as the turns go on, the boss starts hitting harder and harder. So just be wary of that. And that's another reason why I'm using Pram. You can use someone like Adriel, but because Adriel is just a guaranteed critical for only one hero, Pram's buff raises up to 75%, which means that potentially all your other heroes, if you set up a cross, potentially all of your other heroes can crit as well. And at 75%, it's pretty much, it's not a guaranteed crit, but a lot of times they will crit when you need them to crit. So that's pretty much it. I'll probably finish 2-2. Most people, like, if they have 2 or 3 mythic at max level with decent gear, I've heard some people can get to 4-10 completely. I've only made it up to, I think, 3-9. I think I died on 3-10. But my setup is not perfect yet. I need those Fury Thieves like I mentioned before. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for exploration. I don't think I'm missing anything else. I'm just going to check the patch notes very quickly again. And oh, one thing I actually didn't mention, which is kind of important, is that you can retry. Once you retry, suppose that I'm fighting not Hansen here, and I'm using my regular team. Let's say Team A. Team A dies to not Hansen at, let's say, 10 million HP left. If you die and you get him down to 10 mil HP, you can't use Team A anymore. However, he will still remain at 10 mil HP, and you can bring in Team B, let's say, with another group of heroes, and take down not Hansen, starting at 10 mil HP. So it is possible to bring in multiple teams to take down one boss. So do keep in mind of that. That might actually work. If I had enough teams, I may have been able to finish 3-10 that way, but I don't, unfortunately. And one last thing I forgot to mention was this Legacy of Atlantis. Now, nobody knows what this is used for. Legion patch notes mentioned it once and did not talk about it ever again, so I have no idea what this is for. This is, like, you can see the current ranking for most people. You can see a lot of people have Mythics. That's why they're like #1. So Mythics definitely do help carry a lot. Free players might have it a little bit harder. A little more strategy or more teams might be necessary. So yeah, I think that is pretty much it for this video. Go get your dragonhearts, get those mythic heroes at EX, and start destroying exploration. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Peace.